They all made it out alive, but none of them ever truly escaped, because something followed them, not physically, but in their minds. And the worst part is, they all saw the same thing. I'm Adrian Vale. Before we begin tonight's story, I just want to say, if you've ever experienced something strange, terrifying, or simply unexplainable, you can send your story to me by email. Some of the stories I share here come directly from people like you. Tonight's account comes from the Scottish Highlands. A listener named Oliver wrote to me. At first, his message didn't seem unusual, just another camping story. But as I kept reading, I realized something wasn't right, because this wasn't just one story. It was three different people who had never met each other. Yet somehow, they all experienced something eerily similar. Part 1. The Cabin. Oliver began with the account of a lone hiker, a man who had been traveling alone for days, deep into the highlands, far from any marked trails. He was experienced. He knew what he was doing. At least, that's what he thought. The weather changed suddenly. What started as a light drizzle quickly turned into a violent storm. The wind howled through the trees like something alive, and the rain fell so hard it felt like needles against his skin. Within minutes, he was lost. No signal, no path, no direction. Just trees, endless trees. That's when he saw it. A cabin, standing alone, as if it had always been there. It didn't make sense. There were no signs of life anywhere nearby. No roads, no tracks, and yet there it was. The door was slightly open. Inside, a dim, warm light flickered. Relief took over. Without thinking twice, he stepped inside. And the moment he did, the door slammed shut behind him. He turned instantly. He tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. That's when he noticed something strange. There were no windows. None. The walls were thick. Too thick. He tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. That's when he noticed something strange. There were no windows. None. The walls were thick. Too thick. Almost reinforced. A sudden unease crept over him. This wasn't a shelter. It was something else. Then he smelt it. Smoke. At first, it was faint, but within seconds, it became overwhelming. Panic hit. He started banging on the door, shouting, but no one answered. And then he heard it. Footsteps outside, slow, deliberate, circling the cabin. Someone was out there, listening, waiting. The fire spread quickly. Flames crawled up the wooden walls like they had been planned to do so. This wasn't an accident. It was a trap. With nothing left to lose, he threw himself against one of the walls, again and again, until it cracked. He forced his way through, burning his hands in the process, and stumbled out into the storm. But before he ran, he looked back, and for just a second, he saw a figure standing between the trees, watching him, not moving, not chasing. Part 2. The Tower. The second account came from two friends. They had gone exploring an old decommissioned fire watch tower. It was abandoned years ago and rarely visited. They climbed it just before sunset. At the top, the view was breathtaking. miles of forest stretching endlessly. But something felt off, too quiet. As night fell, they decided to head back down. But the ladder was gone. At first, they thought it had collapsed. But then, they heard something below. A faint metallic sound. They looked down, and that's when they saw him. A man, standing at the base of the tower. His face was hidden in darkness, but his movements were clear. He was dismantling the structure, slowly, carefully, piece by piece, removing their only way down. They shouted, called out to him, begged. No response, not even a glance upward. It was as if he already knew they were there and didn't care. For hours they watched him, frozen in fear. And then, just before sunrise, he stopped, turned, and walked into the forest, disappearing completely. When they finally got down later that day, they searched the area, but the ladder was gone. No broken pieces, no signs, nothing, as if it had never existed. Part 3, The Warning. The third story was the most disturbing. A backpacker, camping alone. He woke up suddenly in the middle of the night. Something was wrong. The forest was silent, completely silent. No insects, no wind, no movement. And then he realized his gear was gone. Everything. Heart racing, he grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. There were marks on the ground, dragged footprints. He followed them, slowly, carefully, until he reached a clearing. And what he saw there made no sense. Massive trees uprooted from the ground. Not cut, not broken, torn out. As if something incredibly powerful had ripped them apart. And at the center of it all, his belongings. Neatly arranged, placed deliberately, like a message or a warning. He didn't stay. He grabbed what he could and ran. Oliver ended his message with one final line. All three of them described the same feeling, that they were never alone. And even now, years later, they still feel it, that same presence, watching, waiting. So if you ever find yourself alone in the woods and something feels wrong, trust that feeling, because sometimes the forest doesn't just hide things, it keeps them.